right, crew, let's settle in for number 400. Just a quick shout out to everybody. Appreciate you guys. Sorry for the little glitch when we first started, but everything should be good to go. Volume, everything I see is set. And let's just do it again. Number 400. We're here Tuesday, Thursday. Been doing this for a couple of years now. Pretty amazing. Tomorrow, we're doing the course. The HPC strategy course, that's going to be like 2 hours plus. It's a lot of slides. But it's going to be all updated information, how to get the most out of the software, and everybody else, if you're not with the software, you are here. Please send your TradingView username to hpc at sr-analyst.com. Get started with that. How to go to the course, either subscribe to Harmonic Trader, subscribe to the software, or purchase. And anybody that has purchased it, you guys can go. If you didn't get your email, you should have, but you can actually hit me up on the Discord. So get to the Discord link. Also, it's in the description. So hit subscribe, like here. Check out the information, the other links listed in the description. Everything you're looking for starts at Harmonic Trader. Okay, and then just become a basic member. Everything's there as well. This course we're doing, though, is a major update. So what it assumes is that you all have the software and you all understand basics of harmonic patterns, confirmation strategies. We'll go over them. But there's a basic level, what does a T1 mean versus a T2? What is a basic T1 reaction versus a reversal? We'll get into all that. Right now, for NASDAQ futures, we were up 160. Now we're down 60. A little 200 plus reversal off the morning high. We're looking at the June contract, by the way. We're flipping over from March. So if your price is a little bit different, I know March contract is like 200 different, 300, no, 200 different. But this is June. And the June contract says 19,900 is critical. And this larger zone, 19,600, that's significant. That's the fact that we've stabilized here. What is it? It's just the big 886 off the September lows. We have a bat pattern, by the way, if you didn't know what that was. Off the September low, we have a bat structure. So was that September to December rally all fluff? It's just a reset. A retest cycle, much like what happened last year. Again, April all the way to June, and then by August, you did an 886, and then you were starting to turn it around again. So get that. Anybody that needs to get that course information, again, probably the best place is just to DM me on the Discord. So hit the link. I just put it in the chat. I'll put it in there again. That's what's going on. Really, we really are doing things after last Thursday's cliff climbing excursion. I mean, really looking over the edge of something much larger, and we held so far. But it's been a lackluster week. We should be headed to our target 1 at a minimum, I would think, sooner than later, not wanting to even get out of the zone. There are some issues that are not ideal, might explain why, at least on this 4-hour chart, namely being the fact that we have this counter HSI signal. This is a 4-hour chart. And that's regular trading hours. So that's pretty big. That's one of the reasons why this thing is capped at the moment. Now down 70. Something's going on. My screens are flashing, mostly to the downside. S&P's going down 10. We're going to just round trip the morning run. Sounds like it. So right now, so far, for what we were absolutely fretting, it was actually, this was Thursday. I mean, incredibly, we were literally on the edge. Could be a better week, but we're not lower. And everything that we're looking at the moment is still saying that's got to be the low. Last week we were talking about 19,200 on the March contract. That's probably 19.4 on the June contract. But a lot going on, after the last 3 or 4 weeks, and getting some just not lackluster reactive moves off these lows, honestly. And I think this morning is we have to get above these highs. I mean, we need to get above the 20 handle here, above 20K for a lot of reasons, and do it now. As in, like, today's the 21st, is the 20th of March. Happy spring, everybody, by the way. 20th, 21st, those are usually pivotal cycle dates for a lot of people. June 21, March 21, September 21, December 21. So we got to see. And this really doesn't have any more time. Did we fill the gap? That's like the only thing that I would have preferred to have seen. I think we were just shy to fill that little bitty gap here on the hourly 4-hour chart, something like that. So this zone, we might be really dealing with this zone between 19.9 and 19.550 a little bit longer. Maybe we deal with this into the end of the month, or before we can generate something else back on the downside. Some of the stuff we'll talk about tomorrow will involve this exact type of analysis. Like, what do you do? What's the expectation? And what are the warning signs? Like, what are the signs of failure we should be looking for on our way to target one? And that's what's going on. We've got a price action problem, and we've got an HSI problem for now. And we have to turn it around. One of the ways you do it is simply, you got 40 minutes left in this 4-hour candle. We need to see a strong afternoon. You're at a pivotal spot. If you don't turn back up on the 50 on that 4-hour time frame, and this is going back from where this whole thing started for this year, back here. I mean, that's really where this acceleration took off. If we're turning this around, we're higher in the next day, in the next 2-3 bars. If we're going to go back down and retest these lows, it gets rejected right here. Let's see. Let's come back to that, because that's not far off. It's 40 minutes away. I think we will stretch out our 400 show for at least another 40 minutes here. Spring back test of a spring, says Wayne Bat son Wayne Bat. I think it's just consolidation myself. I think there's too many larger developments. Daily has turned up in a way where we're above the 50 line, and we have the same pattern on the daily. That was the 4-hour chart. I was just kind of like hunkering in on it. But ideally, you have all the conditions for a type 1 that are right out of the textbook, or right out of the course from the software itself. T1's generated, there's terminal bar. The dot went on, doesn't matter where that, that's from all the way over here. Again, we'll talk about why it matters, but this is the development bar there. And you retest it, 19,620 on the June contract. The 886. I find that pretty remarkable that it just kind of sits itself right down at the XA level, 19,480, and responded. And we were on live stream. We were live streaming at that point, and I was just, you guys heard it, my voice. I was really just kind of amazed that we weren't responding, or at least it was taking longer than I expected. But that's why. I mean, that was the 886 off of last September's low. So 19,480, you do not want to be underneath there. So just let's tighten everything up going forward. Even if this is going to take a little more time before it tries to go to T1, we're going to tighten this all up. Like, no close. Really, at this point, no close under the 3-bar range, which is 19.6. So, and that's, again, June contract. So just be aware of that. Some of the other stuff, though, just specifically focusing on tech, NASDAQ. Here's Amazon. Okay, and again, about 2 hours ago, I was like, yeah, there you go. It was trading above 197. We were trying to peek our head out of this shark pattern zone. Amazon might need more time. Looks like, 190's the number, but it's just not moving up there yet. It's one of the ones to watch, though. You're above 50. Okay, HSI, but this is the real reason why it's not moving. We're not above 50 yet on amplified. Need to print some green to get some green for the longs. For me, I still say this is a great spot to be looking at it. I mean, you've got a lot of back-to-back pattern dynamics here. A deep crab all the way down to way past target 1. 201, 202 really was target 1 and was down at 190, halfway between 1 and 2. I do think this is an area to be looking. No matter what, I mean, a lot of narrative. Here we go back again with excessive narrative. But if I'm measuring and looking for patterns along the way, retracements in an uptrend for Amazon, this is exactly what I'm looking for. It might take a little more time. It might take till next month. But I'm looking here. Yeah, well, Tesla is sitting right there too. And I don't disagree that it's like right there. And you couldn't have worst PR press at the moment going on. But I'm still looking here. Okay, I'm long an initial entry. I didn't add anything else. Talk to you guys about why that was early, but I'm still looking for it here. HSI's got to stay above the 50. How do we do that? We produce some green bars. So we start trailing out here, a couple more red candles. I'll agree. I will agree that then that this scenario is going to take a lot longer. And you need to get that 50 up. Tesla's down 2 today. People firebombing dealerships and protesting. And I mean, come on. I think, if we were to turn all the news and we were just living in a chart world, which I kind of prefer at times, I would just read that as massive retracement. We've been waiting on this retracement for a while and have talked about why this had to go through the big retracement. On the retracement, you have a pattern. You have turnaround. I mean, what we need is stabilization on the daily and weekly, because that's definitely not there yet either. Surprisingly, I mean, this is some of the lowest oversold HSI readings on record, and it's like almost a minus 20 or a negative 20, and then we're at like 22 on amplified. This is just extremely oversold. But to end it doesn't mean it won't just keep being oversold. But to end it, you need some bars to flex out. So it's still it's an early mistake. Not too bad, but I owned up to that. I entered the first batch, which was like 300 between 263 and 274, with the main number 267, because of the daily. What was it? The daily, yeah, the daily with confirmation, which just a touch underneath there was 262. But amplified decided to stay in for another week, and I'm just looking here, but need to see that thing stabilize. Certainly 230. 230 might be a little too tight, but I'm still all right. Look, you go to the QQQ, okay, which is, this is what everybody's looking at. We've been in front of this looking for 487, and it went to 467. Yeah, we were looking at 487, went to 467. But since doing that retracement, okay, we've seen some first signs of stabilization, and on HSI, the confirmation's 487 as well. But will it turn up and to be able to kind of rebound off of that retracement? This is what's got to happen. It's not there yet. It's kind of like trying to predict it back here, that we would turn around, and basically end of last year, early this year, we spent a lot of time going sideways when people thought we would go up. It's kind of where we are. Although HSI's in a better spot. Let's see. It did the weekly. The weekly is like this. So the weekly is also still oversold here. But I'm surprised it's down this low, and the last time we've spent that much time there was, you have to go back to like 2022 lows, which was fairly oversold, or even COVID low. You're starting to challenge COVID lows. Point being, on a relative basis, this thing is oversold dramatically, because you're doing a comparative. I mean, that's what HSI is. It's looking at this action versus like this prior action. So this retracement relative to how strong this last move was, fairly significant, but it still needs a green candle or two to get it out of the weekly. So we'll know. I mean, it's really, by today, it doesn't look too promising. I mean, that looks like it wants to roll back over. Certainly by tomorrow's close, We can't even put up a green candle on the week. Then I think you're looking at this thing not doing much until next month. It's just it will languish sideways for a few more weeks till you get out of the quarter. I'm surprised they didn't. This is the week they should have really turned it around. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, it's right there with the 2020 low. So again, that tells you how severe this selling has been in the last 3-4 weeks. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I don't know. There are some other interesting things that have kind of popped up, and I'm just tracking a lot of them. I want to show one or two individual ones where these are just spot on patterns with fairly significant kind of consequences for what they're doing. Like here's Valero. This is just it's a refiner, okay, and the whole notion of Valero is that it will continue to go up on economic activity. My whole thesis has been, okay, that whatever this retracement is going to be, and I thought it would be a 4 to 6 week retracement. It ended up being like a 14, 16 week retracement so far. But I thought it would be a lot like what Valero is doing here on the daily, maybe even the weekly, where we do a nice sharp retracement, put in a couple of patterns here at some levels, and start to go up again. We talked about this at 120, and it's also a long-term play. Like this, it's another one of these where it's a long-term uptrend. This is a business that just has ever-increasing demand, utility. It's not going away anytime soon. And the assumption is, like this whole market, that we're still in this long-term uptrend channel. And we're looking for daily, 4-hour, weekly patterns within the channel, whatever it is, as the next set of opportunities. So we're here in the middle of that channel on Valero. Doesn't look nearly as bad on the monthly as it might on the daily, but regardless, you're still 35, 40% off the all-time highs. What's that? 185 down to 110, 70 points. It's like, 30%, 25%. 25%. But that's the theory of what we're looking for. And I think that's starting to work. I just keep an eye on that one. That's probably the only really play I have, even for the whole energy sector, or the refiners. Here's ConocoPhillips. This is pretty interesting, big pattern at 89, but retesting. You're getting big patterns, and this one retested this back at 93. Not an easy read or setup, but more so that these stocks haven't looked really good, but putting in really nice patterns where they're starting to respond. Here's a weekly. And again, I'm just throwing out examples that kind of reinforce this whole pattern idea. That the patterns that we are seeing, like Amazon shark pattern, not a crazy idea. Or here's the other one. There's actually a few of them. And this would be almost like, consider speculative tech in certain ways, but here's Airbnb. And it's a type 2. Going all the way back to this crab pattern, 125. So it's mostly range bound, but here's our prime T2 opportunity. So you're seeing patterns like that, patterns like Tesla, seeing other things that have worked out. Check out really quick Broadcom. I don't think this should be taken off your radar. Broadcom with this Gartley here looked like it was about to blast off, but pretty soon. It's a lot like what happened back in August at 129. Now your next level is 177. And it's just continuing. It's been, look at that. I mean, after the explosive move in December, a nice 20% correction all the way back down. But that's it. That's so common. That's the kind of thing we want. We're in an uptrend. You're getting retracement patterns. Yeah. I mean, look, what's that? 2023? 2023, beautiful bat. 2024, another bat. Now Gartley within this longer term uptrend. You guys get what I'm saying? Don't despair. Yeah, I think so. What's up, Steven? Yeah, Intel is another one where that's not trending, okay? Although it's got some big patterns. I think we got to be patient with that. This big weekly. I would prefer those trending situations where you're buying retracement patterns within uptrends. And Intel above 2083 is probably a good thing. It just, when is it going to get above 30? It might be a little while. And the monthly's like this. It is a type 2 shark, so that should be it. One or two others. I brought this up before, and it's starting to work. Again, this is tech, the Dell. Dell's up here. T2 with the dot. We didn't get the check back, but 91.81 absolutely firmed up. Market's trying to come back. What's NASDAQ doing on a 5-minute? Hold on. It looked like we're going to roll over. Now it looks like we're about to go back to even. I mean, I don't care. You just need to hold. You just need to hold. We need some green days, but we need to hold these levels too. Like not roll over. Yeah, we're still in that uptrend. I have to get above all these early patterns. So for this June contract, that's like above 20,100. Really would like to see it recover. Just for now, I've been throwing out like some ideas when they're there for you guys who are futures traders. Ideally, I would love to see that bar check back. This literally just registered about 4 minutes ago. Okay, but the yellow dot, and again, is something we'll talk about tomorrow, is at 875. That could easily come back and retest. But that's just one way I would look at intraday dot to dot style overbought, oversold extremes intraday, and then 30-second time frame. Yeah, there you go. I thought I saw the hop level 863, but not totally ideal because there's no confirmation. No confirmation on that. Maybe just expect a reaction at best for right now. We'll come back to that. We have that 40-minute, we got 20 more minutes until this 4-hour bar. So I'll come back to this. This is an important 4-hour bar because if we don't, we checked back. This could be the first red candle, and if we get another red candle by the close, that doesn't set up for I would say then you're tomorrow you're going to come back and retest the zone. 20 minutes. Let's see if they can turn that around. This is one of the toughest areas, especially when you're, beyond that 3 to 5 bar window. Like, how much time do I have to give it? We'll give it 30, but this T1 objective not looking likely, at least on this shot. Let me segue before getting out of the stocks altogether. I'm looking at Coinbase, and I'm looking at Connell especially. Okay, because it's there's some patterns down here. I think this thing is washed out or getting pretty close. Some bigger numbers that are down here, 15, or even, what was the other one? 13. Hold on. I think it's maybe down here at 15. This is the Coinbase, the 2x long. And Coinbase is almost back. Okay, retesting those prior patterns at like 160, 167. And now we got this big bat pattern. And that's 183. So I'm not yet, because if you check this out, HSI is holding actually quite nicely, but Amplified still lagging. And again, I want to see that get to the 50. The fact that it's just not really wanting to push and get into that accelerated area doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it's definitely losing a little mojo. It needs to push that. And then we could look for a possible T1 assault. But I think that's pretty interesting. That's one of the more interesting setups I've seen in these stocks, any crypto related stocks, in a while. And you have massive support back here. XA 167, or even the Shark, that was like 145, but the Shark terminal bar 161, pretty clear. A lot of support down there. So I'm looking at that, maybe the first time in a while. It's surprising. And then what about MicroStrategy? Still 300. We didn't flush, got down to 230. What was that low? 235. Not really. I mean, I don't, butterfly on the 4 hour. That's pretty interesting. Maybe. That might be an interesting one to look at. That kind of caught me off guard. It was like a week ago at the low, right at the hop level. Right at the hop level. It would be good to see this thing above 305. Any kind of a close. The fact we hit target 1 yesterday, not able to get through. I would be watching this, but these are a little bit better. Probably the first time since the peak, but maybe Coinbase over that. The other one that, remember CleanSpark? And we backed out of that, and it just did nothing, has done nothing. We were looking at that from like 10.30 or $11, and then we bailed literally there. Literally bailed. I put a tweet out and told you guys we live stream where I just said, I think this is going to go back and retest for a while. We just got the first check back confirmation, and that's around $8. I'm not doing anything yet, but I'm looking, because that is a type 2. And technically, that's a better spot because we have confirmation there. The big thing that I'll be saying tomorrow on the course is line up either the T1 or the T2, and then whatever the corresponding HSI dot trigger is. That's it. and then we ride it to target or HSI, but that's probably the appropriate spot for CleanSpark. Without confirmation, and I know what I was looking at before because I thought we had confirmation from a prior reading. I really thought this on CleanSpark, and this is I like this, what's going on here. But I was looking at it like, oh, there's prior HSI, and then it's checking back there. I think I had even changed the settings so we could get a bigger check back range, but that's more of what we're looking for. When we get the confirmations, we want them tight like that, and then we need to see this thing, it's stabilizing, no doubt. But here we are again, just to highlight what makes something work versus not. It won't start working until we get like that above the 50. Even if I was looking at that confirmation, look, there's the 50 on HSI for the first time, and you don't have a dot till later. So there are concrete things to be looking at to optimize when to get in, avoid the drawdown, or skip it. One or two more. Did I talk about Dell? Yeah, I did talk about Dell. I mean, Dell's actually, this is why I wanted to tell you, or just come back here. Dell's doing it now. Okay, that's what it should look like. And we could even say yesterday was the first day above 50. Yep. All right. So let's talking about 50. Let's jump over to Bitcoin and look at, I don't know, today's the 20th, so we're at one of those dates. We found ourselves, I don't know, throughout time where we're at these seasonal changes that mark some kind of a turning point for Bitcoin and crypto in general. Here's the big development just this month. The fact we finished the crab pattern. We were looking for the bigger retest numbers, 76.5, 76.6, the off of the weekly. Most of them fell just a touch shy, but did give us confirmation. And what's that low? 76.5, 73. That's basically what we had targeted off of the prior bearish pattern. And now we have the bullish pattern with confirmation, but here I'm somewhat encouraged, though, despite the lackluster action. At least we have poked our head yesterday above the 50. That would have been the first time that we could really consider this with a possibility to make that higher run. But I'm okay if it doesn't. Just a couple more green. That's when last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, yeah, a week ago Tuesday, this is the kind of green daily price bars I said I really wanted to see. I didn't need to see a huge move, and I'm only looking for this thing to pop to 91K, probably more like 89 to 91. But we need more development. The rest of crypto is bleak, unless you're maybe one or two other plays. And I just, until Bitcoin really puts something together, I don't think we can expect much from anything. I mean, even Ethereum, and my concern still remains on Ethereum about this 1900 level as a major sign for what can be expected going forward. Because couple of days ago, I was seriously questioning, why am I not buying this? Why am I not buying Ethereum? And do I have everything that I really want to see? I have most of it. I've got this beautiful type 2 daily pattern, and I've got this kind of breakout on HSI. It's staying above the 50. That's great. And even yesterday, we had our first attempt above the 50 level. So I would say if we hold here and we can get a turn up reversal soon, that would be a massive change in trend development. But that has to happen first. And remember, the top in this zone, okay, the numbers are really like 2365, 2150 in the low end. 1900 is the absolute scraping bottom low. So if it takes another day or two and you got to let that pop a little higher until that happens, I think it's worth the wait. But I'm intrigued in a way like I haven't in a long time here. And I think part of it, though, is this weekly situation. Weekly has been oversold, and you have this thing at least turning around. So, stories can change as long as the readings change. And again, I'm big on, utilizing the tools and the framework to describe to myself what I think is going on based on these kind of developments, and then develop a story around it. For Ethereum, that story would be that we have been really not constructive on Ethereum, especially since it failed 4,000 the last time and broke down. Then we cracked the 50 level. Okay, and that was back in December to really trigger this steeper correction. And we're there now trying to literally stabilize this week. We might be out. I mean, HSI is trying to take a look. HSI is trying to get out of that zone after a rare double bottom. A nice higher low. That matters. This low in HSI, well, you're getting a higher low and price is diverging. Okay, when the first reading comes, the low is 2,600. Here's a second reading. The low is 1,800. 1,754 actually. And Amplified is finally giving you inflection out. Again, I would want to see that really do a big push higher above the 50, but those are early signs. For the first time, it would be a lot like the last two times. So check out Ethereum. You go back to 23, it would be that kind of a situation, or even this kind of a situation, June 22. That being probably the best signal because it responded immediately and just blasted. This is probably a lot like what's going on here back in 22. So what's that tell you? We need this week. We need a corresponding check back week and probably two more. But you're close. You're close. What's going on with Justin? What's up with Solana? I'm just kind of waiting for Solana to go to target 2. Sol 105. Now 127. Listen, what have we noticed about all of these patterns? And it has been, for crypto, this cycle is really, this is probably the third cycle. I mean, we literally just started running charts in 16 with HPC. But what's the consistent thing we've seen with crypto? Bullish or bearish, type 1s like to go to target 2 on crypto, and I don't know why, but they do. Target 2, 105.89. It's either that or give me an HSI and give me the inflection, and we're hitting this week. Amplified, that's our bottom indicator, that's popping out. So those are great, but early signs, you'd have to take it to next week. But real close to 105.89. Had that hit 105.89, I would have said that's probably done. We might spend a couple more weeks down there. You have to hold, though, by the way. Like, again, I don't want to see, we can hit 105.89. I don't want to see a close under 105.89. That's for sure. So I want to see stabilization down here. We could almost argue that some prior readings here at 130 are relevant. Obvious static support. And it is responding to this lower end of the zone. Will we get back to 227 anytime soon? Probably is going to be a while. But today, being the 20th into the 21st, maybe with some spring for change. Really quick, another big pattern that I've mentioned is stellar lumens with the butterfly down here. Okay, really interesting. I haven't done anything with it. Again, I brought this up on Tuesday. I'm watching. I made one day trade off of it, and I think I caught like 2 or 3 cents, and that was about it. You know, I'm just so I do not want to get caught being loaded back up again. Like I tried at 38 to 41. That was a mistake. And now we have this pattern on the lumens, and I hear lots of great juicy things coming their way, but at the right price, please, and at the right kind of price behavior. And so watch XLM, really what after today. Maybe we come back to 26.8 one more time, but we'd have to hold and turn back up, and this whole thing too. HSI's got to turn back up. You don't want to see that thing roll over, and I'm looking for possibilities down here, but I'm not really sizing like I did back in September, October. Here's a 5-minute chart. I think 26.8's the number. So maybe one more penny lower. And again, this is against a big zone, big daily zone. There you go. Couple of things. Yep. There's patterns, but what makes a pattern a trade opportunity? That's tomorrow, kids. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. There's concrete reasons why. Maybe yesterday was day one to truly start to consider it. But we've been cautious for reasons obvious. When we get a dot confirmation, do we go long? Pretty much, yeah. But there's going to be 1 or 2 things you're going to want to be seeing happen first. I mean, technically, you had this T2, and then the dot confirmation came on back here on March 6th. But, the only thing that's beyond this that's actually that more complicated is just look at your indicators. Well, all right, which way is this running? When that dot forms, okay, are we above 50 or below 50? Well, in this case, we were below 50, so there's no action. There's no action on HSI at that point. If we're waiting at least 1 bar, 2 bars, it rolls over. So it's you can use that simple dot strategy, but there's one or two things, maybe a few more than that, that I would draw your attention to. But simply stuff like being aware of where you are, what the indicator is expressing, is going to give you the extent of how much you truly can expect. Is it T1 reaction or T2 reversal? That's a T2. And our structural expectation, if it's T2, we're looking for target 2 to 41.40. Is that going to happen? Well, not unless we get amplified really moving up above 50 and HSI does so as well. I mean, 24 to 30, which is what you've done, 23, 22.75, 22.75 cents was the exact low. And then you did a little reactive move up to 29.7. So, I mean, that's like a 30% low to high move. But the real action to T2, I don't think has even begun yet. And that's exactly what we'll talk about tomorrow. Where we're going to start in tomorrow's session, guys, is, okay, we're going to start there. Forget the pattern, and everyone should have an idea what the patterns are all about. But we're just going to talk T1 to T1 to target 1. That's what that is. T1 reaction to T1 dollar sign. Target $1 sign. What are we looking for? Do we even take that trade? Probably not. Didn't have confirmation. And then we'll talk about why. Because that's half the battle of getting in your brain. Like you start thinking, oh, I missed this, I missed that. You didn't have confirmation. No, we're looking for super optimal trade situations. I mean, here's XRP. And this was the reason why we were negative, turned negative on XRP back in January. It was a perfect T2 with the dot at 320. We know we had big numbers at 270, but then this daily type 2 poked its head and gave us a dot. 320. So, and that's why we've been not constructive on the space in a while. I still haven't seen anything develop other than some dots here. XRP, I want to believe that they're going to take over the whole banking system, and a lot of great logistical just planning, I guess, of how they want to move forward and supplant the SWIFT system, which does 100 trillion a year. So they'll do 15 trillion a year or something. You know, it's just a lot of one-to-ones being assessed like that. But there's certainly a place. But what's the price? And for this, I need a pattern. So I'm concerned. I'm out of XRP. I had a large position last fall, and I would love to get another entry in here. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, it was a one-day pump. I agree with you. What's up, Neil? All good. So, you know, these are major situations. And I strongly suggest sticking with the big boys still, like the top 10. Let's go to Cardano. Cardano, even being mentioned in the crypto reserve, I think was an honor. Put it on a different stratosphere. But now, where's the opportunity? We have a shark pattern. We have a bullish pattern, which is fantastic. And we did not come back for the full type 2, but we did retest some prior support. So I'm still looking for 55, guys. I would love to get it back down there, but I'm going to watch this. Like I'm somewhat impressed with it. And Cardano's been able to hold At this point, if Cardano was going to melt down, we'd be back at the 35, 40 cent mark. But I'm going to wait and see. And daily time frame is somewhere between 65 and 55 cents. Might not be a crazy idea. And you've got some relative assurance that whether or not that'll ever happen, that they get into some kind of reserve, just the fact that they'll be able to say that for as long as they will, which will be the next few years, will at least bring support. It's not like Doge. Yeah. Well, here's on the 4-hour chart, and I would go back on this 4-hour chart since we've simmered down until Bitcoin can really, I would say until Bitcoin can get back above 92K, all right, we're going to have subdued markets. But Cardano, lots of things at 63 somewhere, and again, I'm going to say 65 to 55 would be really a sweet opportunity. That's what I'm looking for. You got Ethereum, you got Solana, Bitcoin, XRP, XLM. What else? Because most of everything got destroyed. But really, I'm kind of blown away. Things that we were looking at for a dot or whatever, something that was like 20 cents, like, hey, it's got to, let's look for it at 12 cents and look for it at a dot. They're now like 5 cents. Here's Dogecoin. And I still say that's going back to 12. That's another straight up, straight down. That's it. That's all that is. So 886, yeah, it's like 12 cents on Doge. And people are still shouting out the meme coins. And I'm surprised. Where's Giga Chad? Just as an example, here it is, Giga. That was 10 cents. Now it's 1.5. And, the proponents of this have been telling people to hold on, to buy more, Like millionaires will be printed from holding this. I don't know about you, but there was nothing up here even at 6 or 7 cents, and it went to almost 10 on this. Here we have a hop level, and this is just degenerate crypto. You might as well go to Vegas, in my opinion. But even if you were trying to speculate because you're a crypto insane maniac, hey, 125. What's that? 120? 1.2 cents? That's our hop level, the butterfly, maybe. But I would not, at this point, I wouldn't. You'd have to wait for Bitcoin to turn around. Who was saying for Gala? Was that you, Justin? I think Justin won Gala. He's in there. Gala, my friend, is the same thing. It was a straight up, and now it's a 2. That is a type 2. And retesting all this support down here. Like 1.7. Dare I even say like 1.2 cents. No confirmation. You need a trigger. I mean, that's really the thing. And we talked about this. Wasn't Snoop Dogg the one where we were saying, hey, it's a great idea what he's going to do, releasing through Gala Games and through this or that, but it was still at the right price, and we had nothing here. Maybe down there at 1.7, but what, again, can you expect? I can't expect much. I mean, I would like to give you guys some really concrete ideas. Not there. I remember we were just talking about Litecoin couple weeks ago with Miss Teen Crypto, Randy Hipper, and we had just bearish confirmation at 110, 120. I was surprised it was still up there. And she loves the use case technology. And I would listen to somebody like her because she probably knows. But at what price? Here are some initial signals. First daily bullish dot since the last one up here at, what was that, back in December 24 at 116, kind of a dud. What about this one? Got to get above the 50s here. Same situation. What else? The FET type 2, it did a type 2. FET's like this. I think, remember we were looking for FET at 150 and we're saying, yeah, wait for it to come back to $1. Well, now it's 50 cents. There's another one. Yeah, look, it was coming back. We had back-to-back patterns here. There's the T1 all the way up, coming back down. T2, that's where we're looking for the retest. Confirmation wasn't until 70. So think about that, okay? And this is going to be the process that I firmly lay out tomorrow. I think one of the best advantages of the software is that it keeps you out of trouble. Like, let's say your friend was telling you that FET AI is going to take over the world at $2 or 150, and you didn't have anything. In fact, you had bearish, coming off of bearish patterns here, no confirmation. You just simply wait. I mean, the first potential signal was there at 128 and went up and sent you counter and all the way back down. But this is different. Okay, and this is going to be a classic type 2 of exactly what we need. There's the XA level. It retested it there. Initial confirmation, there's your dot. So it's really after that dot that the trade even begins. And check out what amplified. This is the same situation over and over again. Okay, we start looking here and then just look at what it amplified. No, 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 no. Tries to do it, but no. Right back down. I mean, we need to be above trending. I mean, a couple of bars above the 50 to change that character of downtrend. So pattern completes, confirmation, this green bar. Yeah, this is a great setup right there, potentially, but we don't have the other things we need to see. This is crypto in general. Here's the other one, Link. But look at what Link's going to do here. Okay, Link's got a massive pattern. So where's the opportunity? Is it here or is it on a full retest at 926? Talked about this last time. Weekly HSI, trying to get out of the zone so you know you're still early. The daily, all right, pretty interesting smaller pattern with confirmation that says like 13.9 is a big number, and can't get above the 50 here. Can't. If it got above the 50, especially these prior peaks, that's something else that would say, all right, it's changed. It hasn't. Even you go back to this kind of lame signal, you go back, it was early January, at least you got above the 50 and that prior peak area, and you had a move from like 18 to 27. At least you got something off of that. I mean, it's just, that's another one with a great name, but again, the price has got to be right. I think the price is like $9 on Link, not 13 or 14. The other one, I know people want H bar because they're supposed to take over the whole crypto sphere. This is kind of like XRP. Nothing really here. I mean, there's just nothing. Maybe you know something I don't, But I would look at a chart like that and say there's not even an oversold trigger at 18 cents. And what's a really common trading, impulsive trading thing to do is just be like, well, if there's nothing there bullish, that doesn't necessarily mean there's nothing there that's not bearish. But I would still look at it like this. It's, to me, we're thinking mostly in M's and W's, that it would be like that, or 886. And that's not even right. 19 cents. Go back to the 886, maybe. I don't think so, not yet, but that's definitely a traced out possibility that if I can trace it out, I have to consider it. So you got to wait on the Fed. You got to wait on these H bar stuff. As I said, this the top ones. Yeah, Hook, I am on ADA. I'm still looking at 55, maybe 65. Celestia is another one where we have tracked that from 6 to 5 down to 4, and it went to 250, 275. There were some things here, daily, I think weekly too. Yeah, and now the weekly, maybe that's not the best chart. The weekly is giving another check back, but it's not doing much. You're just busting the 50 today. Where's Binance feed? That's a little better. Yeah, maybe. I think last week, that was week 1. I think that's not bad. I just think you're going to need more time, and we can't expect this stuff to burn. I just don't think it's ready to run or do anything crazy like we saw in November. There's the daily. Yep. Yeah, that's what it was. We had a butterfly. And a lot of these, look, this is what we faced. It was December. It was really early mid-December. So the crypto that were not really super exploding, but were definitely moving, like Celestia, a lot of them formed patterns right off the low. And we were looking for the retracement down, okay, and then looking for a retest of the pattern support, and then an explosion back up. And what happened? They went deeper than we expected, and then confirmation came in like 2 weeks later. But part of the deal is waiting for those dots, waiting for that to pop up as a trigger. And that's what happened to Celestia. And I just think it's better here at 275. But we need to get, you need to see better progress before you can expect that to do anything other than maybe go to 375. I mean, the big moves have been just sucked out of the air. They're not going to happen. Maybe they'll happen. I don't know. Maybe something will happen with Bitcoin. Shake it up. You need that. Yeah, I think that's, what's up, Scotty? Yeah, he has a great comment there. Sorry, I'm just going back there, but markets, his comment was just patterns are still working even in these market conditions. And in fact, they're kind of telling us that crypto market conditions are not great. What was the net effect of the October-November run? A full 886 retracement and then some. It's and so, I don't know, a lot of people still talking like it's November. You need a lot of things to happen, starting with the Bitcoin chart. Get back in the 90K level. Yep. FET to 0. I don't know about that, but all of those AI stuff. They got crushed. Yeah, I just think it's going to take more time. What's up, Jason? Let's look at SUI. That's another popular one that's been crushed. 5 something down to 230. Shark at 205. It's a type 1. No confirmation. No confirmation yet. No HSI. You do have amplified, but all I could expect from that would be a reaction. Not especially if we don't have anything. What about a weekly? No. Weekly, there you go. Okay. This is how you know. You've got one, and then you need 2 green bars. You're doing nothing. I would say so a chart like that tells me, okay, we are probably not going to do anything until next month. You need a green week this week. You need a green week next week, and then start going. And meanwhile, you're here at 235, and you're probably going to stay there between 2 and 250 for the next 10 days to figure this out. Mitch, what's up? I'm sorry, Mitch Ray in the house. I'm riffing, 3rd cup of coffee, my 400th show. I want to, again, always shout out to Mitch Ray. He really was the person that inspired me to actually do this thing. So thank you, Mitch. I hope all is well with you, man. Let's have a talk real soon. And let's do a live stream really soon. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. 1 or 2 more. What's up, Cosmos? Want to look at sand? What happened there? Remember? People were going to pay $1 million a lot on Sandbox. I'll tell you what, too. I had dinner with Mitch. It seemed like forever ago. It was end of January. And I was like, I just don't know about this crypto. It doesn't look great. And he only had to say 2 words to me. Beanie Babies. He says, like, they're all Beanie Babies anyway. And I was like, right, Beanie Babies. I went home and started selling like the rest of what I had. I don't know. I needed to hear that, really. But that was incredible dinner. Yeah, man. Always. Thanks for showing up. Here's Sandbox, guys. And Beanie Babies in sand. Here we are at 28.5 cents. I on the weekly chart, if you knew something about it, yeah, maybe I'd look there, but check out what's going on. HSI is not out. These all are so early. They're oversold, but they're so early. You're kind of stepping into quicksand. Maybe enter a little bit, but I don't, there's better markets. There's better things out there. And at this point, it's really just about the big ones. You need those big ones that were mentioned to find a bid. Yeah. Yeah, let's get it on schedule maybe next week with Mitch, do a joint stream. Maybe next Thursday. Incredible. He wants to look at others and total 3. I think that's a good way to wrap up because others, basically everything but top 10, shows us what's going on. We are trying to finish this retracement. There's no surprise, right? No surprise that we are still in this retracement phase. And that's been, it's gotten super boring because we've been saying, all right, let it retrace, let it come in, but it's gone deeper than we thought. But here, you do have others index trying to give you the first inflection after being dramatically oversold. It went in there first week of February and has spent 6 or 7 weeks. That's the problem. That's like Tesla and some of these others that are deep oversold. They're just taking more time, go a little bit lower before they give you any kind of inflection. Um, and the others index, remember the others index, when it cracked the 50 level back in September, that was our go sign. That was the kind of a signal where at that point we knew we had serious momentum behind us for the year end run. And that was like early mid-September, and then they wrote it into first week of December. But since then, and even since, again, the 50 crack, it's where things really started to kind of break down. I would say on these others index as well. I'm really watching because we have a couple of overbought dot confirmation. What's that say to me? A lot of resistance in this 350, 400 billion long term. We would need to really do some big things to get some kind of second half of a rally. I mean, who thinks there's going to be, anyone think there's going to be a big rally at this point? Into the summer, into the fall, into the end of the year? Because that would be the only hope at this point. You get the cycle year, the crypto Olympic year every 4 years is now. And we are, don't forget, really close to the 1 year anniversary of the halving. So net effect, I mean, the Bitcoin halving, overall crypto has not really yielded much. You know, where's 2024? Like there. Last year, the halving was a topping event. So now we're going to be 1 year later, basically lower. Yeah. The total threes like this. That's just Bitcoin and Ethereum. And Ethereum has been so weak that, you know, amazing this is not lower. But we have a dot confirmation failure right so far to get above 1.2 trillion on the total three. And that's a big deal. I mean, I'm not thinking complete meltdown yet because it's a monthly chart. You still have this happening. You're still above the 50. But if we're going to see anything come back to life, you need that to turn up. You need a green candle. Really, even just close it right where it is right now. And that's total three. That's Bitcoin, Ethereum. Take them out. I think the others index is probably a better read if this stuff's going to get anything. I think that you got to consider the fact that the last couple of cycles, relative to the number of coins out today, it was a finite supply. Now you've got probably more getting minted every day than there were last cycle. I haven't seen those metrics in a while, but it was getting ridiculous. Somebody said how many a day we're getting printed, posted. Someone wants Rune. I missed that. Who was that? What's up, Sebastian? Yeah, I'm just kind of wrapping it up. Rune, another one of these gamers. Right back down, historic support. This is a little better, but you're weeks away. Again, I'm thinking at this point with what's going on, you just stay with the big boys. Cardano, Bitcoin, Solana, and most of those are still lower before we'd consider them as like being washed out. Speaking about lower, NASDAQ's down 104, S&P down 20. And that's the other market that we're watching here. Like, is this a larger liquidation or is this just taking more time? There on the weekly, we have some bearish patterns, no doubt. I mean, we're still looking at a lot of resistance that, if it's S&P on the weekly, they've got this crab on the NASDAQ futures. And Q, you know, we have a butterfly. We're going back 4 years. Definitely responding, but still just reactions. There was no confirmation. If anything, we've got bullish prior support here around 20K. Hold on. Anyway, hey, let's give away one 30-day package. Type in HPC into the chat. This will also enable you to get going, come to the tomorrow's session. You got to connect with me on the Discord. Send me a note there. And that's been working out quite well. Render. Floris, you win. You got to hit me on the Discord. Okay? Floris Boss. Send me a note, DM me on the Discord. Wesley, the render's another interesting situation. I was going to try to get out of here, but we got a little more time. I mean, this is the 400th. Why not? Render's a couple big things. You know, it's that weekly, 275, 320. There's also a big type 2, all around $3 for render. Yeah, there you go. There's a big Gartley, a couple things here, but I don't have development here. I don't have. Look, check out what's going on with Amplified. We just got above the 50 for the first time. Okay, and well, the second time, really the first time off the pattern was back in March. I'm looking at that, but I also think because of this severe downtrend, look, weekly is just confirming today, this week. So up until literally the last day or two, and we probably still are early, I think the number's 3. But it would have to be like that. And the problem with these is that they've just continued to leak out. And they, you know, maybe they have a reaction, but they just kind of keep draining, dripping lower. And we got to get Bitcoin above 90. You got to get Bitcoin moving again. Because there's, for every one that looks like this, or the patterns I'm putting out, you just have all these other ones. You know, you have things like this, Keep Network. I have no idea. And that's dead money, folks. And we want to avoid dead money. You know, or here's the other one, Jasmy. Okay, we looked at that for like a day. We want to avoid the dead money and try to find stuff that's more dead money. So hook up with that. Everybody else, listen, again, big thanks for everybody that's here on a regular basis. You guys make it fun. Hit me up on Discord if you're here listening. I'll send you an invite to attend tomorrow. Okay, but do yourself a favor and just get with the software. Everybody's got to get with the software. Send your TradingView username to hpc@sr-analyst.com. Okay, and I'm giving out a 15% discount coupon on the email, the follow-up email that you get. So if you have any questions, again, get with me over in the Discord. Appreciate you guys. Listen, it's been phenomenal. Let's see if we can get to 500. And then I'll seriously assess what my long-term plans with this program are going to be, but I'll be around for at least another 100. Tomorrow, though, I'll be over. Join me in the course. And if you can make it, just hit me up on Discord. Until then, everybody, if any questions, reach out to me over at Harmonic Trader as well. And we'll see you next time. All right. Thanks. Have a great weekend. As always.